How you feeling, Luke?
I am one tooth lighter, Joe. I would not recommend this diet though, because my face is all puffy, and one tooth really isn't worth it. But yeah, I had a wisdom tooth, as you know, taken out on Wednesday. Today is Friday,
You're
so
really a
like,
trooper for doing this early.
um, I thought I would be, but actually, it's been okay afterwards. I thought it would be a lot more painful after the fact, but like, knock on wood. Uh, it's kind of there's like a mild dull pain, but otherwise it's really not that bad.
Mm.
You might hear my voice is a little strange. I don't think that has anything to do with the tooth. I think that's
Yeah,
just
you
because
just
like we had like a first night or two with AC on because it was like really hot, and this always happens for whatever reason.
mm, you just sound
So
like
forgive
really
me.
worn out, kind of.
I didn't sleep the night before pretty much the surgery because I was so nervous, and then it's been a while sort of getting caught up on sleep. But I was just really nervous that it would hurt a lot, and because I've had cavities filled, and during the drilling I could always feel stuff. I don't know about you.
Oh,
I like always felt it. Just felt like somebody was stabbing the end of a nerve, and you never knew when it
yeah,
was going to
it's
come. Just wham, and you'd flinch and stuff, and they'd be like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "Just let's just get this over with."
you're tied
They
down
could
with your
see me.
mouth
They could see
clamped
me
open. You all
flinch
right?
because it really
Yeah.
friggin' hurts. And so, like, I thought it would be like that, except they don't just pull the truth. They cut into pieces and then like pull it out piece by piece. And I thought I was going to feel all of that, so I was really nervous. So then the question, of course, comes up, which is like, well, they could sedate you. They could put you to sleep. And I was originally thinking about like doing that. And then I was talking to like the front desk lady who was running it through insurance, and she basically said that sedation is not covered. So without the
Whoa.
sedation, it's going to cost you out of pocket like $130, but with sedation, it's going to
Oh,
be
that's
like eight. It's going to be like 850. You kind of come to the question of like, is 10 minutes of what I think is going to be pain worth $700? And then you're like, are you tough? Like, how strong do I think I am? How would I view other people who did that? It's not supposed to hurt, right? Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm not going to feel anything. And like $700, that's a lot of money. But it's definitely, this is definitely an only in America kind of conversation here, where you're like at the front desk and like exploring your options. And she said, insurance isn't going to cover the sedation because it's only like a 15-minute procedure. But if it's like a 30 or 45-minute procedure, then it is covered. Well, it's like, well, what if we take all four of them out? And then like she
just
kind
to
of hollers
optimize the.
just to optimize the insurance. I mean, welcome to America, baby. Best healthcare
That's it.
system. And like she's like hollering back to the doctor and is like, what if you take all four out? And he like gave him a number of how long it would take. And she like punches it into like the, I don't know, some sort of insurance software or something that she had, and it like pooped out another number. Turns out some other thing kicked in and it exceeded something or rather. And long story short, it was like $2,200 out of pocket if I took all four of them out.
Whoa.
So like that's not going to happen. But I ended up, I ended up opting for the local anesthesia only, not the sedation. So they didn't put me to sleep, plus nitrous oxide, the laughing gas stuff, just
Yeah.
because like I was just kind
Help
of
you out a little
curious.
bit.
I was just kind of curious to see what laughing gas was and what it was like. It's a strange experience, man, to get your tooth removed. I know you've done it. You like did all of them, but you can imagine like a grown man having a pair of pliers like attached directly to your jawbone. It's like twisting and stuff, and like
Ah,
I couldn't feel anything. So I really the anesthetic. So that was like my biggest fear. I didn't feel anything, like other than quote unquote pressure and
right.
an electrical shock. Strangely enough, I like got pretty severely
Really
shocked when they first put in, I don't know, the numbing stuff.
interesting.
That was really weird. She's like, "You're gonna feel a shock." I'm like, "A shock," and then I felt it, and I was like, "Whoa, actually, that was good."
Hmm.
And he was like, I could hear him go, "Mm-hmm."
It's also kind of a jarring experience. They have like a huge needle. They just have to like stick into the side of your mouth to for that.
Maybe that's what it was. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I just tried to focus on my breathing the whole time, just like deep breaths
Yeah.
in and out and stuff, and like counting the little dots on the ceiling. Um, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
How long did it take?
the whole thing might have been like 25 minutes or something, and that includes like after they stick you with the Novocaine, local
Yeah.
anesthesia before. Marinate was the word he used. Let it marinate, and but then taking out. He said it was a tough tooth. I think he stabbed me in my cheek by accident because it like slipped.
Oh,
I think like the tool slipped and stabbed me in the tooth. I know that because like I'm tonguing over by my cheek and they're definitely like stitches. So like when I think he stitched me up, I don't think he was stitching up like the tooth thing. I think he was stitching up my cheek because I can feel him.
that doesn't
Anyway,
sound
man,
very good.
that was my Wednesday. The big thing, I'm kind of creeped out now. I didn't eat anything that day either, just because it was, first off, I had a mouthful of gauze on one half of my mouth.
Yeah, it's,
And like
you
it's just
really can't eat.
it's bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I took the gauze out, it's like dark red. It's like,
Yeah. Ugh.
and like I'm not gonna eat. I'm not gonna. I don't. I was afraid to like drink a cup of milk, let alone like try to chew anything. Anyway, another life experience under my belt. But damn, yeah, I've been dreading that for a long time. Like when it first the tooth first. I don't know how long we want to talk about this, but like when the tooth first quote unquote erupted, like when it came past the gums. This was like early last year. It was like over a year ago, probably. The dentist was like, "Oh, you're gonna probably want to take that out." And I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's not bothering me. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
So then like a month ago or something, maybe 6 weeks ago, it got infected. And that was really painful. Like when it gets infected, that was like, you can't think about anything else because it hurts so much. So then it's like, they're like, okay, we kind of knew this was going to happen. And I was like, all right, fine. It broke, quote unquote.
Do you have the impression that your others may have similar problems?
Last year when they told me that like it erupted and they should go probably take it out, I did go and see a consult by an oral surgeon. He took one look at it and was like, you got to take all 4 of them out, and then charged me like $150 for that 5-minute consult where it was just like, I felt like it was kind of BS. So I was like, oh, screw this guy. What?
Yeah. I mean,
the dentist gave me
more teeth he takes out, the more he gets paid.
The dentist gave me the impression that it was like a 50-50. They would want to take that specific tooth out, and then you show up and he's like, take all 4 of them out. I'm like, oh, F you. What?
Yeah.
I'll wait. F this guy.
Back to your U.S. point of a very U.S. healthcare conversation. You're at least saving a bunch of money if you go through this very annoyingly tooth by tooth.
Yeah. Dentist insurance is sort of backwards. It's super messed up. It's like, it's the opposite of insurance. They cover you up to a certain amount, and then after that, you're on your own.
Yeah.
That's not how insurance is supposed to work. It's supposed to be like, you're exposed this capped amount, and then everything above that is covered. Nope, not dentist. Anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty strange.
Yeah, it's messed up. And then there's a whole vision insurance too. I don't even know how that works. We're about to find out though, with my wife's eye thing. I think that's medical stuff though. So this has been not a good start, 2026. And then you start having conversations. It's like, well, good thing this happened at the beginning of the year and didn't like span over insurance for 2 years. So they reset the deductible and everything. Count our blessings. Count our blessings. I got to say, man, I'm a patriotic American, but damn, our healthcare system has just got us by the balls. It's just like, tough. What do we got this week? Now we got Putin goes to China. We got mounting tech layoffs, and the Federal Reserve tells us how to have more babies. Who would have guessed that message was coming from the Federal Reserve?
We had Warsh sworn in today too. I don't know if you saw that, like out his little thing. He talked about it, tried to reassure everyone that he's not going to mess with him the whole time. But we all know that he's going to. So he was clearly trying to, address the critics a little bit, which I think in all fairness, it was a good statement from him. But you know how fickle he is. He's definitely going to be blasting the tweets whenever something happens that he doesn't like. So it's going to be really funny, though, whenever the first move from Warsh is a hike instead of a cut.
Yeah. What's his name? Waller? He sort of makes a lot of rounds with a lot of speeches. He recently came out and basically explained how he's changed his mind a little bit. So, we got the meeting minutes this past week from the previous FOMC meeting. And then also this week, he gave a speech. And in the speech, he had said something like, I would be supportive of getting rid of that easing bias language. Do you see that? But, one of the big things that happened from the previous FOMC meeting, which there were like 4 separate dissenters. One was Myron, which we always knew about. And the other three of them, Waller, not one of them, wanted to get rid of that quote unquote easing bias language.
Yep.
but it did not include Waller. And then Waller in this Waller in this speech comes out and says, add me to that list. So I think,
I think Waller's point was, he said he thinks now the probability of having a cut is about equal to having a probability of a hike.
Yeah.
And then last week as well, Susan Collins was another more dovish one. She basically was warming to the idea, maybe we might have to hike. And Myron's gone now, so we're not going to have that ultra. We got to cut by 100 basis points tomorrow voice there anymore. And Powell too. It's going to be really interesting to see if and how much Powell goes in the spotlight still. He said he's not going to, but I mean, all Fed governors make speeches, on just as a normal, regular basis. But I guess we'll see.
Anyway, that was a fun easing cycle. Not as many cuts as normal, and certainly ended sort of with a whimper. Just up, we're done.
Yeah,
seemingly.
I mean, but also it's making this look more and more like the early '90s, which is what a lot of people were talking about at the time when everything was about, are we going to be able to get to a soft landing or not? Is it going to look more like early 1980s, drive to a recession, or can we kind of dance around? Hike some, we cut some. Like basically the first half of the 1990s was with Alan Greenspan. So this is looking increasingly like that, 30-year ago period.
I guess 30 years ago, then there was also that huge productivity boom coming on with the internet and all that, and computers.
Next one's upon us.
Sure enough, here we go, transition time, and right into layoffs from AI. Here we go. Just a bunch of earnings calls. And you can just list off the number of CEOs and CFOs.
Yeah.
Getting on saying how, we're going to basically make way in the budget for AI, and that what we're cutting is FTEs, full-time equivalents, people.
The big dramatic one was the CEO of Standard Chartered. Did you hear about that one, Luke? He kind of drew a bit of controversy. His comment was, we're cutting, I think the quote was, lower value human capital. So people were not very happy with that kind of language. And days after, throughout the week, he's had to come out and make, try to smooth it over. But it was just struck a nerve in just the exact wrong way that CEO of a major corporation should not be describing linking AI to layoffs. Oh, we're getting rid of the low value people.
Is that what the tension was? I thought it was just...
He said it in just a very sterile way. And then similar to that, I think it was the COO of Goldman Sachs, I think the week prior, he made the metaphor that a lot of today's middle and back office functions in banks, which number in the tens of thousands of people, even per bank potentially, and it's just ready to be automated away. He said it's just, it's coming.
Wow, yeah.
Doesn't know when, but this is one of the first things that's going to go.
It looks like some tech companies, they're just straight up cutting jobs right now. Got some in our notes here. Meta cutting 8,000 jobs. I think I saw Block.
Intuit. Block. Jack Dorsey cut, I think, 50% of the company.
Yeah, I think it was 40%. I think nearly half. And, so there's 10,000 people. He did it in a tweet or a post. 10,000
Coinbase as well.
6.
Yeah, huge layoffs via tweet.
And in that tweet, he didn't say it's because of AI, but he did say around it, just intelligence tools have fundamentally changed sort of what it means to build and run a company. Slowing hiring is definitely a theme that you see. So they're not going to cut jobs. It's just the number of jobs that they're probably going to have open later is going to go down.
Yeah.
So they're going to try to continue to grow and all that with the people that they have now.
Yeah.
So
Bank of America has done a much better job with that recently. Some of the comments from Brian Moynihan recently is that he said we've been able to achieve thousands of job cuts just via attrition over the past, I forget how many months. So they're not even laying anyone off. They're just not replacing people that choose to leave.
Yep.
And that definitely seems like the nicest, or, just the smoothest.
It's a nice way to do it. It also helps you, having to pay. Another thing that Jack Dorsey said in that.
Yeah, PR, he got ripped up
for
that.
Dorsey?
Yeah.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, because it was
I think the first paragraph he said, he's we're going to cut a bunch of people. The first thing he says is we're still going to pay you a bunch, okay? 20 weeks or something.
Right. I think it was also bad optics, I think, on Dorsey specifically. I think late last year, they did this company party that was like in the tens of millions of dollars, like some big stadium, these expensive performers, and just spending like insane amounts of money on big things like that. And then a couple months later, it's like, all right, we're actually cutting half of you.
JP Morgan, CFO, Jeremy Barnum, managers should like quote unquote avoid hiring people, focus on efficiency as AI is deployed.
Jamie Dimon made a comment earlier this week. He was saying AI is going to have us hire more people in the end. So he's trying to really fight this from, the totally opposite angle.
Uber 2026 earnings call, slow hiring because of AI. Match Group or Tinder, CFO Stephen Bailey, the way that they're going to pay for more AI is just with, again, FTEs, slowing hiring. Amazon CEO said something similar, right? They were like in the news recently. Accenture CEO, Julie Sweet. So she's basically tying AI fluency with a requirement for promotions. So, if you can't be reskilled using AI, then you're going to be exited on I think it's like compressing timeline.
Yeah. Yeah. Where
it's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah. They basically tap you on the shoulder and say, listen, you got 6 months. If you don't get it together, go find a new job.
So then you compare that, all this talk from, a bunch of big companies talking about they're either going to slow hirings or they're just cutting things outright, with the commentary you hear in these speeches from these Fed officials, and they look at the labor market and all that and the softening, and they talk about how it's strange now that the labor market, the total size isn't really growing, right? The number of jobs is kind of steady, but then again, the labor market isn't growing. It's sort of static. So it's sort of met this sort of like stable place.
Lower population growth with lower job growth. By traditional measures, the labor market looks pretty weak by, monthly job growth, like for years now. But things haven't crashed as traditionally those metrics at the levels we see today would imply.
I'm going to be a little bit of a contrarian here. I say let's get this AI productivity up and going. Because, whatever job that you lay off that, working at a company, then that person's going to go out and do something else that's productive and makes things cheaper and all that. So basically, at the end of the day, the more stuff that we collectively produce, the better off that we're going to be. So I say bring it on. What do you think?
I'm totally with you there.
People can adapt. Okay. It's like our greatest skill.
Yeah.
As human beings.
In the long run, AI means we're all going to be able to do more, do things that was just never possible before. There's going to be some friction to get there, as there always is, but net is, it should open up way more opportunities for people in, businesses, enterprises of all different kinds over the longer term here. I think the question is just how long is it going to take, and what does that churn look like along the way?
I don't know if you saw this, but the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, is suing the Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. Do you see that?
Really? No.
For passing SF 4760 into law, which bans prediction markets.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. So Minnesota's coming out, and they're saying, "Hey, this is gambling, right? And we have very strict anti-gambling laws." They cite things like addiction. They prey on younger people, low-income folks. They're exploitative. There could potentially be insider trading, self-dealing, and corruption. It's all gambling. It's all bad. We're going to ban it. And the CFTC is coming back and being like, yo, this is a derivative. Okay, this is my territory. You back off. What's your take?
CFTC typically caters to institutional investors, whereas it sounds like the Minnesota law is looking at retail investors. From that angle, I think it's perfectly reasonable. I don't know, living in my family's from Pennsylvania, so whenever I go back and visit them over break or holidays or whatever, my parents have cable TV. You see commercials on TV all the time. So I'm just shocked at how many commercials are about gambling apps. It just blows my mind at how much just on normal everyday airwaves they are just blasting these sports bet. It's like, as recently it's all sports betting. I think it's even just like casino games just from your phone, and that is extremely harmful. I think just overall, like, number one, just having them is one thing, because it is a very addictive, it's basically a drug in a way, just gambling addictions. But then if you have it just blasted over the airwaves all the time, that just makes it much worse. So I'd actually be on Tim Waltz's side in this one. And, it's, for example, like retail traders can't trade oil futures or wheat futures for very good reason.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So like you don't want all that retail money chasing the futures market because it's going to screw up what they're intended for, which is to hedge risk.
That's right, exactly.
Got it.
So it's like in this one, like I'm with the CFTC as well. It's like just make it more institutional, at least, because it really is the Wild West today with these prediction markets. Still, like you said, insider trading. There's no rules around that.
Interesting. All right. I mean, my take when I was thinking about it a bit, I was a bit conflicted as well. I sort of have like my federalism bias. I generally think that states should be free to kind of do what they want. I'm definitely like a smaller central government guy, kind of, give the states a little bit more latitude to make their own laws and cover more ground. The governments that are closer to the people of the state, I think, should make the decision about some of the more contentious issues. I think that's a great compromise. The other half is the libertarian bias, which I generally think individuals should be free to engage in these sort of things. Maybe that's the Pennsylvania mindset. If you want to gamble, if you want to drink, I say fine. Just, so long as it doesn't hurt other people. I mean, it sounds like you just don't like the commercials.
No, not at all. I don't like it because it can ruin lives. Full stop.
No, so I think ultimately, though, what's breaking me is like, unlike those other things, like the other gambling things, generally, I think prediction markets are good because they do provide useful information. I think. Okay. Zoom in on that facial expression.
I would kind of, I would push back against that as well.
Really?
It's not that.
I thought that was a given. I think like for them to say that such and such bill is going to pass before 2026, like I even was about to use it, I think, in my editing the last video about if Clarity was going to like pass. It was like 70% chance it was going to pass in 2026. That's like useful. I think that's useful information. You don't think so?
That's you. Yeah. So, that's a good point. So I had a couple examples of, to me, where it seems like totally not useful. So you can do these things on anything. And I think you can quickly see ones that don't add any value. For example, there was one recently, a controversy. Yeah, I think at a French airport, somebody manipulated the temperature reading, like it's specific to the airport.
I think I heard about that.
Yeah, you saw that, right? So that was obviously there. I don't know. It went from like 16 degrees Celsius to 21 and then went right back down at just the time where the contract ended. So this long shot contract would pay out. That seems like beyond a shadow of a doubt, that's manipulation. But that's like really dangerous manipulation too, because we're also in a world today where we have these issues of planes crashing, and those are the systems that air traffic control relies on to keep everything as safe as they can. So that one is like, it's really dangerous, number one. And two, who cares if what you think the weather's going to be on one day or not? What kind of information is that providing?
All right. You raised a good, interesting point, interesting perspective. You want to talk about the Putin Xi meeting?
Only thing I picked up from the Putin Xi meeting is that apparently Xi made some statement about the importance of ending conflicts in the Middle East, but he didn't say a word about Ukraine.
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah, they're definitely very goody-goody with each other.
We got a Thucydides trap soundbite with the U.S. I don't think we got anything particularly spicy from this one.
No, it is kind of interesting to compare and contrast, though. I think we should introduce a new metric, which is how many children did they have jumping and screaming for, and then how many did they have for Putin? If it's not exactly the same, I think we should all be insulted. They know what they're doing.
I like that.
Forcing those little kids to jump up and down. The U.S. and China, there seemed to be a lot more tension. There was very clearly just kind of some sticky points. The U.S., they want to like get their trade deficit down to effectively zero. China, they want the U.S. has got to make a statement very clear and forthcoming about Taiwan.
Yeah.
there really doesn't seem to be a whole lot of misunderstandings between the China and Russia. And they're just like, they re-signed and recontinued this like 25-year understanding of something, of like friendliness or good neighborliness or something like that. And they signed this like huge, they went over there and they signed like 20 plus something separate documents. And there's like this big long joint statement on, between the Russian Federation and China, talking about, their historical foundations, bilateral cooperation in high level and military ties, law enforcement, trade, investment. The only point of contention could have been taken from this is like China or Russia really wants to set up this pipeline, and China's kind of dragging its feet a little bit. If we cover finance here, sort of one of the interesting things has to do with they want to settle their trade in their local national currencies, and that's one of the things in there.
That's a big one.
Much more kind of friendly, relationship.
Much less drama. Like there's really no sticking points between them.
The other thing I wanted to look at is just the nature of the trade between them. So Russia is, one of the few, I guess, countries that is running a trade surplus with China, and that's really on the back of
energy.
Crude petroleum. It's funny to put these things side by side, just break down like what they're exporting and what they're importing. And it's just like crude petroleum is just this huge chunk of it. Petroleum gas, coal, just raw materials basically going from Russia to China. And then on the way back, they get manufactured goods. I would say that it's a very kind of good positive relationship for both of them. On the one hand, Russia, I think, is a good source for export markets, investment inflows, technology access, revenue, while all these sanctions are trying to destroy them. China's sort of not, willing or able or wants to comply. That's kind of their choice. And then for China, they have like a good source of resources. All right, Joe, this is what I really want to talk to you about. Joe, do you want kids?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah? Why?
It's basically, in a way, kind of the point of life, I think. We got to keep this train rolling. Each one of us individually is not here for very long.
So do you see it as doing like this duty? Is that what I'm gathering?
There's some duty to it.
Part of something I got to do to keep pay it forward a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's also just I'm of the age where I've got friends like you, friends a few years older than me that have had kids a few years ago now, and just certainly the way that you've spoke about it, that essay you wrote actually a few years ago about having children cured your what is it, pedophobia?
Yeah,
I think you called it. Yeah, I thought that was wonderfully written. It was
cool.
It was just very touching. It's like there is one level of like, I know that there's this, and it's just abstract to me because I don't have children yet, but there's just this degree of magic of once you have kids, life is no longer about living for yourself, it's about living for your kids now. And there's just there's some feeling to that people speak very effusively about, I think. That I just don't know yet, but that's
right.
Would like to experience that.
So as you know, we don't usually cover this kind of stuff here. We cover, finance, econ, monetary policy in particular.
It's from the Fed, so it counts.
Background. Exactly. But like, I'm taking this excuse. The FRB Atlanta came out with a paper just like this past week called "What's Behind Declining Birth Rates in the U.S." They have some really tenuous connection to why this is relevant for the Federal Reserve. They want to talk about like long-term interest rates or whatever. But I think it's really just because...
I think that's pretty direct, by the way.
I don't know. I think a paper
change linked to the long-term R-star, I think, is a really big question.
I think some of these ideas are getting a little stretched. So we'll see whether or not, if subsidizing childcare is something that the Fed should really be advocating for, if that really belongs, for them. But why is it declining? Just to summarize, Gen Z doesn't want kids. No, but the contribution from this paper is that what they say is that a growing proportion of partners can't have kids.
I mean, like, just super high level, again, not reading the paper. One of the immediate things, people just are having more difficulties having kids. The most obvious thing that jumps out to me is just that how far out these life events have been pushed out in people's lives.
Yeah, I'm gonna
think
get
that's
to that.
the main. Yeah.
All right. Here's the first graph I want to stop on. Go ahead, explain kind of what we're looking at. Figure 2.
I do not even know the meaning of the word fecundity.
Fecundity, the physiological capacity or potential to reproduce.
We got the past 40 years here, some measurements with some standard of error drawn about each point. What is this, every 5-ish years or so? Solid black line, impaired fecundity, and dotted line, share of women infertile. So I'm assuming infertile means just kind of can't have kids, and the other one is can but impaired in some way.
The share of women infertile and the share of women with impaired fecundity in 1982 was about the same at like 13%. And then over time, the share of women infertile has, gradually gone down, maybe plateaued a little bit in the 2010s, but it's now closer to like 9%. Whereas the share of women with impaired fecundity has sort of gradually gone up with like a pretty decent uptick in the last, call it 10 years. And it's up to like about 19.5, like 20%.
That's pretty high.
Yeah, it seems like really high, right? And like, I think you sort of honing in on what the definition is actually kind of important because it's very strange. And I think it's just one of my takeaways I thought from this paper was like, what's going on here? Like they're going to have to try a little bit to explain why infertility is going down, but impaired fecundity is going up.
Yeah.
And the definitions, to your point, infertility is there are 2 conditions in which someone is defined as infertile. So it only is relevant for partnered heterosexual women. And during the last 12 months, have you been living continuously together? Were you sexually active each month, not using contraception, and the woman did not get pregnant? Impaired fecundity is a little different. One is you can become, classified as non or longer term infertile, which is similar to that, except you couldn't conceive for 36 months or more. You identify as being surgically or contraceptively sterile. So that's pretty firm. But then you could also be classified with impaired fecundity at the answer to a survey, to a couple questions. One of the question is, would you have difficulty getting pregnant or fathering a child or carrying the baby to term? And the other one is, has a doctor ever advised you to not become pregnant for whatever reason, say for like health reasons?
It's just like a survey question.
Yeah, because like this isn't. Yeah, so I think this when you actually look at the definition of this sort of stands out to me as kind of a red flag. I would really want to dig in and see specifically how these survey questions have been answered over time, and if that doesn't explain a little bit as to why this has been a jump, and it's not like because difficulty is difficult. Would you have difficulty getting pregnant?
Yeah, very subjective.
So that's kind of one of the takeaways. Let me show something else that sort of stands out. So this is figure 4, and they got 3 panels here. Panel C, go ahead and explain what you're looking at.
All right. Average probability of a woman at a given age with impaired fecundity. Okay, so, they're all upward sloping here. We've got, 5 lines back to the first half of the 20th century. That's our grandparents' generation, generally. They're all, so everything across, or everything that's not Gen Z is relatively pretty tight. And just, as the years roll by, it becomes harder to have children. That seems pretty obvious. But yeah, I think what you're getting at is the black dotted line. The Gen Z one is just in a different area. It's not on the same, like just the other 3 are just obviously very closely clustered together.
Yeah. So it'll start with like, women getting age with impaired fecundity, all of them, the millennials, silent, they don't really have much data for younger ones, but millennials, boomers, Gen X are all pretty tightly clustered together, starting at like, call it 8% when you're 20 years old of being with impaired fecundity, and it sort of gradually goes up. up to around, I don't know, 25, call it 25, 30% at the top end with impaired fecundity by the time they're 40. Kind of makes sense. But then Gen Z, it's like a step up. It's like noticeably higher, call it by like, I don't know, 3 to 5% higher consistently having impaired fecundity. That's weird. I mean, is there going to be like a physical, something physically going on with Gen Z? Like the authors of this paper, I think, really need to make an effort to explain that.
Absolutely.
Here's another one. So here's panel B. Similar idea, but it's average probability of a woman at a given age wanting another child. And again, everything's pretty tight. When they're 20 years old, 90% of boomers, millennials, Gen X's all say they want a kid. And then it just gradually slopes down to maybe like 30% by the time they're 40 of women at a given age wanting another child. But then Gen Z, it's like another step down. So instead of like 95, they're at like high 80s%. And it's like parallel. Mm-hmm. Right? So I think like that's...
And like it looks like the slope of that line is even slightly higher as well.
Yeah. This is what they find. And then it's like, all right, what are their explanations in the decline in the want? They looked at the quote unquote like rigid social norms to reverse downward trends, they say, and birth rate societies, and men in particular, have to catch up with the desires and increasing autonomy of women have enjoyed through structural changes over time. Now, what that exactly means, they didn't really elaborate. What I would have liked to see them do is just better tie the line between that and then why they're not having kids. Right. They don't really say that. What is it exactly about rigid social norms that make them not want kids? Or like they talk about the motherhood penalty is a little bit closer in that, you know, you get, you know, a big hit at work and how much you could potentially earn as soon as you have kids. I'm a little bit skeptical about that. I mean, my colleague just had a kid and he's going to be out for like 3 months. It's like the same amount of time as the mom. So I don't know. But okay, fine. The other thing they mentioned is the financial costs of like childcare, the, you know, increasing expectations, providing educational opportunities. And, you know, they cite some annual childcare costs. They say the child is like 8 to 19% of U.S. median income. What do you think about that?
I don't really know why exactly, but you know, people talk about childcare costs in America have just exploded, and it's just a huge financial burden now.
The financial stuff is a pretty big deal. Childcare is pretty brutal. Not gonna lie. I mean, we in our household currently pay more for childcare than we do for the mortgage. We're like, when we had 2 kids now, full-time daycare. I think when my youngest daughter was in the toddler room, we were paying like $900 a week.
Wow.
That's brutal. That's like a real shot in the gut every week.
That's absurd.
Yeah. So, you know, there you go. But I think that's one of the things that you got to point to. It's like, it's a cultural thing. The expectations around other people in your family, like your parents or something, to come help you with the kids is like zero. Or like your siblings to help you with the kids. It's just like not there. My mom, for instance, you know, I think she's willing. She's just not able. I think she had kids very late. And now it's just, you know, grandparents become a grandparent at like 70 or something. Right.
Yeah.
Whereas like a couple generations ago, you were a grandparent by like 45. If you had like kids at like 20 or something, and then, right. And then your kid had a kid at 20, bam, you're a grandparent at 45. You can still help out a lot. Now, like new mothers are 45. So by the time they're a grandparent, they're going to be like 80, 90, and you just can't help. And then, so, and like, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. We've got like neighbors here, and I think they've got like a bunch of help, and it just makes such a difference. And that's lost.
Yeah. One of my coworkers, had his first kid a couple of years ago. Is having his second right now. I think he's 10. I think he's on the dot 10 years older than me. And same thing. Like he said that his parents also had children pretty late in life. He's saying today, you know, he is into his 40s now. So it's like a gift for the grandparents to simply see their grandchildren, let alone doing all of this work to raise them.
We did get a lot of help from my wife's mom. But we flew her over here from Russia, and there was like visa things, so she can't be here as much as we would necessarily like her to be. Because yeah, she was. I thought she was a great help, but it's just kind of out of reach now. But that's a big deal. That's a big deal. The other thing that they mentioned in this paper had to talk about with maternal mortality and violence. So then they stick in some statistics about the U.S. Maternal mortality rate is higher than it is in Canada, Western Europe, the Balkan countries, which are kind of running about 6 per 100,000, whereas in the U.S. we're like at 17 per 100,000.
Really?
How much that is weighing on the minds of Gen Z, I can't say, for a bunch of reasons. I'm not a Gen Z, and I'm not a woman.
3 times the amount.
Yeah. They cite some statistics. Mass shootings in schools are giving Gen Z second thoughts. And so there is even a study showing that exposure to a mass shooting by a pregnant woman significantly increases the probability of low birth rate or a very premature birth.
That's terrible.
Now, like, what the sample size that could be, I mean, I don't know, but that's what they found.
Stress and built up cortisol, just no matter what it's from, is increases the chances of some adverse outcome while pregnant, right?
I'm sure it does. My question is, like, how many pregnant women are exposed to mass shootings? And like,
there's wall-to-wall coverage nationally on the news when these tragedies happen.
I thought they were actually like, I got to take a closer look at that paper then. I thought they didn't just hear about them, but they were actually just like actually physically saw them. So maybe okay, good point. Maybe I'm misinterpreting it, and it's
thing.
just that they hear about it.
Blasted. Yeah, it gets blasted all over the news for close to 20 years now even.
Okay, that's true. Maybe I misinterpreted this. Thanks, Joe, for setting me straight here.
Well, I didn't read the paper either. I'm just coming in cold.
Can I go ahead and tell you like the real reason why people don't want kids?
Yeah.
I think the way kids are depicted in media is just awful. I think that they are given such a bad rap, just like in like the news, for instance. And I'll tell you just a little experiment that I did. I just like asked Grok to go ahead and put together like 15, or I asked for 20 different articles, explain about how parents are like burned out or something. And man, they had no problem coming up with a bunch of them. Stuff like, parents, how do you know if you're struggling with burnout? That was from February 2025. Christmas burnout. Why stressed parents find it harder to be emotionally honest with children. That was The Guardian, December 2025. Today's parents exhausted, burned out, and perpetually behind. New York Times. Parenting is more stressful than ever. Here's how to cope. It's Time. Parenting stress is a health issue. U.S. Surgeon General advisory. That's The Guardian. Parents are stressed right now. Here's what they can do. CNN. The parents aren't all right. New York Times. It just goes on like this. Being a parent is hard work and, quote, massively inconvenient. Dr. Becky Kennedy offers 5 tips to help you cope. It's just
thank you, Dr. Becky.
Thanks, Becky.
Having kids is inconvenient. That's a great message for the country.
Yeah, and to be fair, I asked it for positive examples as well, and I gotta say these are. It's not nearly as clearly as like positive or good. Here's one that you can kind of come up that's saying it's positive. Having a child has been the most transformative and the most mundane experience of my life. Parenthood has opened the door to a new kind of love, one not necessarily more sacred or pure than the love for my friends, parents, and husband. And it's
okay. That's a negative. That's firmly in the negative camp.
So all of them, I think this was The Guardian, but like, yeah, all of them
that
I could find, all of them that like Rock could show me, all had like this hedge. The most mundane experience of my life. Wow,
that's absurd. That's like insulting. Opinion.
Kathleen Parker, don't let doomsday birth rates stop you from celebrating motherhood. It's like, all right, I guess that's a positive. Here's one.
I thought you were going to say, don't let doomsday birth rates stop you from enjoying your life and not having kids.
Yeah.
Because that's the theme across all these headlines. I'm trying to find a
positive ones. I was trying to find positive ones, and what I'm saying is they did exist in the major news articles. They were all hedged with something like this.
I guess that's what I'm saying. Even these positive ones, they don't sound that positive.
Yeah, the only ones that are like objectively positive were not coming from major outlets. They were coming from outlets like Institute for Family Studies or some other news outlets that I hadn't heard before, like Deseret News or something. So like, there's just like this huge overbearing weight, I think, from media and just depicting like how parents are. Okay. And it's like super negative. The other thing is like in movies, I think the way that kids are depicted in movies is a crime. Like, we always talk about protecting and defending groups, but no one's really defending how kids are portrayed. They just get a really terrible rap. I mean, we're upholding way too many negative stereotypes about kids. What are some? Go ahead and say them with me, Joe. What are they? Go ahead.
I don't know.
Ahead.
You're underslept. Don't have any time for anything.
Yep.
You're I don't know. Your house is always a mess.
Yep. So you know them.
Don't have your own life anymore. Exactly. Yeah. It's I don't
totally
even know
them.
from which it comes from, but I totally agree. Yeah. That and I mentioned it earlier on. Yeah, it's in. Yeah, and reflecting on this in real time, this is a real travesty. How this is like. How did we get here?
Yeah, I'm absolutely outraged, and I didn't realize this until after I had my first kid. And like, sorry, let me just get through these movies. The most recent example I would say of like when I noticed this in a movie, I watched Oppenheimer maybe like a couple of weeks ago, and the way that they depicted kids in there was awful. I mean, like every scene where they had a kid, it was just yelling and screaming, and the mother was like super stressed out, and she didn't want to be there, and she hated it. And I understand it was like important for her arc. The way it was depicted was like she's given up her career to like raise this, and she friggin' hated it. And it was one of these things where, again, I just watched this and I was like, it's a lie. That's not an accurate depiction. It's like that's not the
message. Career is better than children.
Yeah. Incredibles 2 was another one that when I was just sitting around thinking is another thing where like, the dad is with the kid and it's like awful. Now, granted, my children don't have superpowers, but but like still.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like super
clear.
difficult for him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he himself with superpowers.
No, but then I had my son and it was just not that at all. And I felt like I had been lied to like my whole life. It was just like in my bones. I just thought this is what it was like. And it would be like that for like 5 years. I thought it would take 5 years before, okay, you could actually start to enjoy the kid. So wrong. I was so wrong. So wrong. And I guarantee like the Gen Z have just the terrible, completely inaccurate, like understanding of what it's like to have a kid. And that's a crime. That's like up there with all the other isms and stuff, I think, that people just garner in their hearts about having kids. I remember times when, they were just born and, we took shifts. My wife and I took shifts. I took the early morning shift because I'm a morning person, and she took sort of the night shift that we had during the day. But, I remember like just being in the house and just being like dead quiet. And I was like, what's going on? Like I was getting worried, and I would like look in and like, they're just chilling.
Just hanging.
I mean, babies just kind of chill out. Most of the time, they're just kind of like chilling out.
They're not much else to do.
And then the part where you're not getting a lot of sleep, that's not like for years. That's true for like the first 2 weeks. It's the worst. But then you have like paternity leave. It's all you're doing. So it's really not a big deal. My wife and I were getting, 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep after we just did had this little shift system, and it's fine. Like you figure it out. Like my sister to this day still has to like wake up in the middle of the night to feed her cat. Okay. Kids way past that. And then in terms of being able to enjoy the kid, I think 4, by the time they're like 4, that's a fantastic age. 4 is like, I want him to come with me to the store. Like, my daughter's still like 2. She can still be kind of a handful. She's very, she's a very headstrong 2-year-old, as she should be. But 4 is a fun age, and I think 5 is. He just recently turned 5, and I think 5 is going to be even better. Like, it's just a lot of fun. I love having him come with me to the store.
Nice.
It's enjoyable. That's reason number 1 why people don't want kids. It's because there's a deep-seated pedophobia out there that's been bred into us, right? Through media, through other parents are to blame a little bit for this as well. Because like I remember a number of conversations, like when I was kind of first working, one of my older colleagues might have just had a kid, and then all the other parents are like, "Oh boy, get your sleep now," right? You know that, and it's just like them, and you're like, "Oh man, that sounds like it sucks." Parents are a little bit to blame about that.
Is that like a boomer thing? Because I got to say, people around our age, including like the colleague I mentioned before, other friends I have, they only have positive things to say about it, about becoming a parent. Yeah, it's like, I know get your sleep. I haven't heard that from anyone around of our generation.
Millennials got to turn this around.
We do, like existentially almost.
The second thing, I think the reason why kind of Gen Z, let's say, doesn't want kids, I think it's that like most adults are still kids themselves. And I think people think they become adults or like they're done maturing or like they sort of reach the end when they can take care of themselves. But like they don't have in their mind that, no, you're just like halfway there. We go through sort of 3 phases in life, or 3 phases, let's say. And one is that others take care of you as you as a kid. Then you can take care of yourself. But I think the final stage, your final form, is when you can take care of other people. Right? I mean, that's really the most noble, highest thing that you're trying to get to.
Right.
And that's what happens when you become a parent. And I think people are stuck in that second one. This got me thinking, and it reminded me of this book that I got right here, actually. I took it from my wife's bookshelf. The Anxious Generation, Jonathan Haidt. I'm a big fan of his. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but one of the graphs that he has in there is he argues that kids are just like taking longer to grow up, and they don't really seem to want to grow up. So like, here's one of the graphs. I don't know if you can see that. It's going to be all blurry. I'll explain it to you. It just says teens engaging in adult activities, and it has like percent of students by year. So I guess they took a kind of cross section of students. So like high schoolers, and they asked them what proportion of them have tried alcohol, have done any work, have their driver's license, have had sex, like those 4 things, and all of them are just going down. So high schoolers are doing less and less of these things, or they just haven't doing it at all. And like, it's just part of the failure to launch and all that, where you have like 25, 30-year-old people still living with their parents. It's just like
pioneered that, right?
Yeah. Millennials, I'm sure, are not, completely blameless.
Gen Z is certainly not turning it around, let's just say. But,
right. Let's just say they picked up the baton and they're running full speed ahead. But like, it's just longer and longer to grow up. And that's been a trend, I think, as civilization goes on. You can afford to have kids grow up later and later. And it's almost like a measure of how advanced of a civilization you are, how late before you can do any of this stuff. But I think you lose a lot also.
Absolutely.
I mean, once upon a time, 13 years old, you were a man. Game of Thrones, I'm reading now. Jon Snow, he was like 14 when that book starts. Daenerys was 13. She got pregnant when she was 14. Obviously, this is obviously based on, those time eras, but like Alexander the Great, if we want to get someone real here, I think he was 15 when he started to conquer the known world. It's like those people had to grow up like fast. Okay. It was a different time. Now it's like, try to tell Alexander the Great that like he can't have a beer when he was 15. He's winning wars. He's winning battles against the Persians, but like, oh no, he's not mature enough to handle a beer.
I mean, yeah, it's just like one other little piece of like the real life, like not even famous people or anything, but reading Tolstoy, Dostoevsky's second half of the 19th century, like it was like a 20-year-old guy and like a 16 or 18-year-old girl, and it's like a marriage was arranged, and you would have a kid right after.
Yeah,
and it's like there was like one of the characters was a grandmother at age like 38 or something like that.
Yeah, right. Totally. I mean, those were different eras. I mean, you were going to drop dead any time. You were lucky to make it to 20.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, because like what I'm talking about is like 150 years ago. That's not that far back.
Yeah, no, that sounds right. You had to grow up real fast, but now you just don't. And I think that's a big part of it. People just want us. They just don't want to take that last step to being like a proper adult. It's scary and it's inconvenient. I think that's kind of the third thing I'm going to say here, in that it's too inconvenient. The marginal cost of leisure is just too high. The movies you can watch, the places you can travel, and all that. It's, I don't really want to give all that up. And I kind of like this. The other thing about this is, like, I think people have or like Gen Z or something, when they're sort of depicted these kids, they all can just conceptually understand what it means to like not sleep or have crying and pooping and all that. They all understand that it's like a negative. But when they're told what the positives are, it's always some pie in the sky sort of idea. Like, oh, it's kids fill a hole you never knew existed or something. Or like, oh, it's the most amazing thing. You won't understand until you actually have them. Like, none of that stuff is like concrete things that you can feel. The best way you can do it is, it's too abstract. It's too abstract. You can't possibly know. So at that point, you got to take it on faith from some guy on the internet like me or something. If you're listening to this, you don't know if you can trust me or whatever, but you just like have to take this guy's word, which again is not super convincing. But like, if I were to try, you remember that the question going around, this guy stopping people on the street, he would ask them, like, would you rather have $10 million or wake up tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, naturally people want to wake up tomorrow.
Right. So then the logical conclusion is, well, look at that. Your life is worth, more than 10 million. So start acting like it. Their face changes. They're like, oh yeah, I never thought of it that way. For all the people out there who like don't have kids, and I'd ask them if there's anything in their life that they would rather keep in it, like all their hobbies, their job, their travel, whatever, anything. Would they rather trade any of that or wake up tomorrow? What would you rather do? And obviously they would trade anything in their life just to wake up the next day. Right. So then you gotta, by that same token, just measure like how valuable is it really? Because there are things in my life, obviously, my kids, that I would trade waking up tomorrow to have them in a second. Think about that for a second. Like, in my life, I am lucky enough, and lucky is the word, that I have something that I value as much as I do. None of that's in this paper though, right? I think they missed a lot. But I think that's the want. And then I already explained sort of earlier why I think the ability, I've got some serious question marks, namely about the subjectivity that I think is inherent in that impaired fecundity. And they did try to explain it a little bit, but it was very weak. I thought they talked about like, oh, people have been trying to explain this for a long time. Pollutants really is the reason. Lead, air pollution, plastics is the big thing they honed in on today. They even sort of blamed rising temperatures a little bit.
Naturally.
So blame climate change for why people aren't having more kids. But I wasn't convinced. And, they really need to explain why impaired fecundity is going up, but infertility is going down. They really need to, which they don't. So not super convinced there, but that was my take. And that was my rant. I wanted to get that off my chest. This might come up again, but
it really just is a tragedy how these things are being portrayed.
Yeah, man, there's a new phobia out there. There's a pedophobia. That's like a real thing. You got to fight it. Well, that's all I had for you today, Joe.
Cool.
This has been another episode of the Root of All Evil podcast. My name is Luke.
I'm Joe.
And we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.
All right. See you next time.
Bye.